And you want to talk about a threat to democracy. When you have this country believing you're playing politics with the justice system and you're trying to put people in jail or convict them for political reasons, then we have a real problem.
Well, and the trial in New York was the greatest fundraising bonanza ever. He was lagging behind Biden, and now he's pulled quite a bit ahead.
So on HBO, Bill Maher, he does his little left-wing love fest, right? And once in a while, some truth will emerge. And this week, the truth emerged from the unlikeliest of places, from former governor of New York, Andrew Cuomo. Now, Andrew Cuomo right now is the most dangerous man to the Democrats in this country. He is a Democrat who knows what's really going on, and he doesn't care because they've already kicked him out of the club. By the way, to protect Joe Biden and to protect Gavin Newsom and Kamala Harris. You see, Andrew Cuomo was going to run for president. Now they've pushed him aside, and he's pissed. And so he doesn't care if he tells the truth or not. And the most dangerous Democrat in America is a Democrat who once in a while accidentally tells the truth. So here's Andrew Cuomo telling the truth about the criminal trials against Donald Trump.
The two trials in New York, New Yorkers said, 66% said the justice system is politicized. There's nobody in New York who likes Trump. And still 66% said the justice system is politicized. They believe it is political. And you want to talk about a threat to democracy. When you have this country believing you're playing politics with the justice system and you're trying to put people in jail or convict them for political reasons, then we have a real problem.
Well, and the trial in New York was the greatest fundraising bonanza ever. He was lagging behind Biden, and now he's pulled quite a bit ahead. That trial was the greatest reason people had to send their checks for 5, 10, 25, whatever dollars to Donald Trump.
And I want to pause there for a second because think about what you just saw. Because this is the dementia of the political left and the cultural left personified by Bill Maher. You just had the former governor of New York and former attorney general of New York say to the world that the criminal trials against the former president of the United States and now the nominee for the Republicans and the man leading in all the polls for president of the United States, that the criminal trials against him were a sham, that they were made up, that even New Yorkers who don't like Donald Trump recognize that it is the judicial system being used as a political weapon, one of the most corrupt, unconstitutional, anti-American things that we have seen in our lifetime. Andrew Cuomo, with some level of gravitas and stature, communicates that, and all Bill Maher can say is, yeah, and it helped him raise money for his campaign. This is and Bill Maher is like, being applauded because he's having this forum on his show. And nobody's pointing out the fact that Bill Maher is not disgusted and offended by the weaponization of the courts and our judicial system and the message that it sends to you and I, that if they want to get you, they'll get you. And you don't have a chance, because if they can get Trump, they can get you. This is one of the most deteriorating things that has happened in this country, making everyday Americans feel like our country is completely corrupt and past the point of no return. And all Bill Maher can say is, yeah, and he's been able to raise money because of it. I mean, the worst thing about it is that it helps Trump politically. Are you kidding me? And of course he's not kidding me, because that is all he cares about. If you're going to use the court system and the law as a political weapon, make sure you do it in a way that it doesn't help Trump. That's really the message. And he goes on to take that message. Watch.
The repercussions might be worse. And I was always with you on the one in New York, the hush money trial. I don't think they should have brought that one. It was just always going to look like a sex case, and people were always just going to look at it that way.
The attorney general's case in New York, frankly, should have never been brought. If his name was not Donald Trump and if he wasn't running for president, I'm telling you, that case would have never been brought. And that's what is offensive to people. And it should be. If there's anything left, it's belief in the justice system.
Just heard the one about trying to overthrow the government of the United States. That's the main thing. He tried to overthrow the government of the United States.
But of course, he didn't. And in fact, the special counsel, Jack Smith, who was charged with investigating, President Trump's actions leading up to January 6th and the days after January 6th, he never charged Donald Trump with, what did Bill Maher say? Trying to overthrow the government of the United States. They didn't charge Donald Trump for that. In fact, of the over 1,000 people arrested in the wake of January 6th, do you know how many of them have been charged with insurrection or treason? Do you know how many? None. Zero. So here's Bill Maher hearing from Andrew Cuomo that the justice system is being used in the most corrupt and vile third world banana republic fashion as a political weapon against the leading candidate for president. And the two takeaways Maher has is, oh, it's going to help him politically. He's raising money off of it. That wasn't good. And you should have just gone after him for overthrowing the government, when literally the guy, the corrupt special prosecutor whose job it was to bring charges against him for overthrowing the government, couldn't even bring those charges. And this leftist, I'm sorry, moron still doesn't get it. And we've got a little bit more from Andrew Cuomo here, and I want to pause for a second because I don't want to be misunderstood. Andrew Cuomo is a partisan hack and an odious, corrupt criminal, in my opinion. And there are thousands of New Yorkers who were dead today because of his executive actions as governor of New York during the COVID-19 pandemic. I am no fan of Andrew Cuomo. He's a despicable man, and I think he should be brought up on charges. That's why it's even that much more revealing and powerful that this odious, forgive me, shows up and delivers this hard truth. Now, listen, don't get me wrong. I know how maniacally politically minded Andrew Cuomo is. He's probably trying to find his own lane. He probably thinks that he still has a chance to be the nominee at the convention when they chuck Joe out. Or maybe he's just lining himself up to be the reasonable guy in the room for 2028. I don't know. Trust me, whatever Andrew Cuomo's goals are and intentions are, it's not about the truth. It's about what benefits Andrew Cuomo. All right? So I just want to make sure I'm not misunderstood in presenting what he had to say. But what's the saying? Even a broken clock is right twice a day. Even a blind squirrel finds a nut or an acorn or you get the point. Here's Andrew Cuomo moving on from the weaponization of the judicial system and moving on to the other obvious disaster under Joe Biden's watch, and that's the invasion at our southern border.
His immigration policy was a mistake, right? I get the theory of the extreme left. We're a land of immigrants, let everyone come in. We all came as immigrants. I get it. But how you do it makes all the difference in the world, right? And to just open the borders with no plan, you don't know where they go, you don't know who's going to pay for them. They wind up in cities all across the country. New York has a couple of 100,000 in hotels, costing New York City a fortune. No jobs, no training, no help assimilating into society. So who did you even help, right? It was a great theory.
You have the person in your old job, the governor of New York, a Democrat, saying, "Don't come here." Those are her exact words. "Don't come here." And the mayor of New York saying, "This is going to ruin our city." I mean, if I didn't know who was talking, I would have thought they would be Republicans.
Yeah, but they didn't stop them, Bill. They could have stopped that.
Right.
The governor was saying she didn't want them outside of New York City. But the mayor could have said no. The governor could have said no. Many mayors and governors said no. But New York was more of the ideological left. All are welcome. And now we're finding out, 200,000 people later, you needed a plan. You needed to know what to do with these people. And that's where you found.
Trump is up. He has a 23-point edge with Latinos on the issue of border security. Mm-hmm. I feel like this is another of those issues where the Democrats trying to be so unracist are actually kind of racist because they don't seem to see Latinos as Americans. Right. Like they care about border security too. They're here.
That's right. And of course, we would add to that the victims, the overwhelming majority of the victims of the crimes perpetrated by the illegal immigrants who shouldn't be in this country in the first place, the victims are, in fact, Latinos. The crimes take place in the Latino community. The vast majority of those young women who have been raped and murdered by illegal immigrants since Joe Biden and Alejandro Mayorkas opened up the border are actually Latinos. And here's Bill Maher sort of tipping his toe in the water saying, gosh, it almost seems like Democrats are racist because of their assumptions about Hispanic voters. It's almost like they're the one. Of course they are. Of course they are. And Andrew Cuomo, again, getting close to the truth, but not nearly as close as he should because he's got his political blinders on and his party loyalty there. Can't say the true nature of the Democrats' problem in New York when it comes to illegal immigration. And that is for 4 years when Donald Trump was president, they had to oppose him. They couldn't concede that he was right. They had to grandstand with their sanctimonious, we're a sanctuary city and hate has no home here. Look at the Statue of Liberty. Look at the poem on the base. That's got to be our immigration policy. And meanwhile, we've had like 10 times more people flood into this country without any vetting and any documentation that ever made it through Ellis Island in the decades that it was functioning. And New York now has to live with the sanctuary city policies that they campaigned on, that they grandstanded on, that they did cable news segments on, and got all that political power from. Because at the time, the policies made no sense. At the time, the policies were destructive. At the time, the policies were going to end exactly where we are right now. But at the time, it was a weapon to use against Donald Trump. And it was a weapon, most importantly, always remember, a weapon to use against you. Because you look at the reality of the situation and you recognize that any sane country anywhere on the planet has the right, the obligation, the duty to protect its citizens, to protect its borders, and to have an orderly fashion of vetting those people who want to enter this country, because it's not a God-given right for everyone on the planet to enter this country or any other country. And we have every right to determine who and how many get in at any given time. You've known that. But when Donald Trump won the presidency on that message, you had to be punished. No, you had to be destroyed. It had to be racist. It had to be xenophobic. It had to be hate. And your children in public schools had to be turned against you with that kind of rhetoric. And hate has no home here posters, and borders don't work, and walls don't work. And now you've seen all those slogans and all that strategy to divide this nation manifest in an actual public policy. And suddenly, Andrew Cuomo saying, yeah, maybe walls do work. Maybe the hate that now finds a home here is hate being imported from other countries, manifesting in sexual assault, rape, and murder. Gee, maybe we shouldn't have done this. But will any of that make a difference between now and Election Day? Well, it really depends. If they can continue to move the needle in the polls one way or the other by calling you a hateful, xenophobic, bigoted racist, you bet your ass that's what they're going to do. Because all the political left in this country cares about is power. Getting it, keeping it, and using it. So, of course, that's what they'll do. But you just got to stick with us. We're going to stick with the truth. We're going to stick with an upbeat message to give ourselves the facts every single day so we can defeat them. That's all we got. But we've got each other. And I think that's going to be enough.